Okay, now I got both sides set up, so what we've done here is mounted the cross member piece that I showed you. We're going to mount that on each side. Because this is a high density MDF, just some lag bolts are really all required here to assemble this thing. I created these spacers and we've mounted this side. So now I'm going to attach the spacers to one side of the outside frame. Okay, I'm putting these screws in the spacers, and I could put a little smaller screw to hold this to anchor it. So when I tighten this up, this doesn't twist, but sometimes it's about creative solutions. So what I did is I just took a monkey wrench and screwed it down and then set it in there, so as I turn this isn't going to turn and allow me to tighten this down without adding another hole right here. So, you know, either way would work, but this is just a simple, easy way to give me another hand here. Okay, I got the main frame bolted together. Basically, the whole sub-assembly's been created, and I wanted to clean this edge up, and I tried to think of the easiest way to do that. So what I did here is I rigged up a motor, and it's just going to act like a lathe. So I'll be able to use this point as a resting point for my tool, and I should be able to just clean this edge up real easy. Now, cleaning up the edge is not really required because the stainless steel covers for the magnets wouldn't really require this. You could easily put silicone down and push the magnet onto the silicone and then anchor it down and not go through all this. So I decided to clean this edge up, and this seemed like the easiest way to do that. So what we got here is just an easy way to spin the wheel and clean the edge up. So I'll hold it down because it's not anchored. Careful, you catch your tool in there, you got a mess. So slowing it down using the tool as I cut is enough to keep this from spinning out of control. So this is just a simple way to do this, and I wanted to do something that was easy and you could reproduce. You know, this little motor came out of a scooter. You guys are working this free energy stuff, you probably have a DC motor sitting around you might be able to do this with. If not, you could maybe rig up something by hand and go along and cut it and smooth it out depending on how rough your edge is. But in this case, this was just the easiest way for me to do it. Alright, let's take a look at it. Woo. Now, tool keeps slowing down, but if you let it run, it's going to just accelerate out of control here. So you see that worked pretty good. That's fairly clean, and that's probably clean enough for what I'm going to do. So that'll be about it on that. Okay, while I have this together, I'm about to take it apart and balance it and put the magnets on the front. But I wanted to show you, in order to get this wheel to run true, what you're going to do is put the pencil up as close as you can get it, and you can see this line right here. So that is the high point right there. So that little mark there means that this point on the wheel is further out than the rest of the wheel. It's almost true. If you can see, it's a pretty short little space. Now, in order to tighten that up and bring that back in, I'm going to work on the opposite side and tighten these. There's 3 screws here, and this one would most dramatically affect. You can see it's almost in between those two. So if I tighten this up, it might bring that back in. That's less than a 32nd of an inch. And when I tighten this up, it should give you a good idea as to what I'm talking about here. Now, there are plates that are used for pulleys, and Fastenal has them. I made these. You might want to buy them or create something similar, but realize that if you buy it, it's more likely been machined and would be straight. So you would have a less of an issue with something you would have bought. So it might even be straight as soon as you mount it. So we want that point where that line is. If you look right there, that is really good there. You can see the pencil shadow just barely oscillating. Now remember, that's a mirror image, so you're actually seeing it's exaggerated. The distance, because as the pencil moves away and back, it's actually half that distance that's being generated. So we are really close here. See, right there's the furthest point away, which is just opposite of the line here, which is the closest point. So we don't want to recreate that line. But that is about the furthest point away. That's less than a 32nd of an inch. That's actually going to work. You wouldn't need it to, I mean, you want it to be as straight as possible, but you know, a 32nd of an inch, I might tweak it a little bit more if I feel uncomfortable with it. But once I've put the magnets on it and balanced the wheel, that's going to run pretty true, and we shouldn't have a problem with that running 1500, 2000 RPM without an issue. So we're going to leave that at that point. Now what I'm going to do now is take this frame back apart, take this wheel, drive the shaft back a little bit, and suspend it out here on front, which will be easier to balance and manage the wheel. What I did here, knowing I had to take it out, is I used short lag bolts, 1 inch long, to allow me to remove this front easily. They're basically only 1 inch long. And when I put it together for the last time, I'll use 2 inch lag bolts right here, which will screw into fresh plastic. I just don't want to mess up the inside of that from removing it over and over again in case I have issues. So basically I only have 3 points here. There's 3 lag bolts. There's one here, and one at the top. So it only takes these 3 lag screws to separate this in half. Now once all the coils are mounted, obviously it won't, but this is a rock solid shape. So I really didn't have to do anything other than make sure the top was flush, because if you remember, we had these little aluminum shafts pinning these boards together, so they're perfectly the same size. So by making this flush here and flush this way, when I bolted this together, it was true. It was straight. Didn't have to do anything else. So it's pretty easy to square these 2 boards up together. Now this inner edge here is pretty sharp. So what I want to do is I want to smooth this edge off just so I don't cut myself. This is a battery powered router, and I'll just use it to clean up the edge. So we'll get this one first.